All right, all right, all right. I am so excited today. It's been a week since I've talked to Mr. Lancelot, and the last conversation we had was just so wonderful. I was on his podcast, and we just chopped it up, and he asked me some really thought-provoking questions that I will talk about a little bit later in the show. But even if you think about it, he asked me the difference between belief and faith. And I just been thinking about that all week, Lancelot, and what that means and how does that intersect with what God has for us. Yeah, sometimes when you do these shows, you talk to folks that are they're in the business in it. They're in the thick of things. They're trying to say, hey, I just did a book. I want people to know about my book because I put my heart and my soul and everything into that book, and I just want people to know that it's out there. And so we go through the conversation, and they do real well. But it's not the same as somebody's going, how do I help others get to where they want to get to?
Right.
And then the conversation takes a whole nother meaning. It takes a whole nother, like, you just feel it. You see it in their eyes. You see it in the things that they do, that they truly want to make a difference in others' lives. And when I
Mhm.
talk to Lance a lot, that's what I get. That's what I hear. That's what I see. And just wanted to thank you for being on today. I'm sorry, my voice is not usually this voice, and you guys usually hear it. And so I did an assembly for a whole bunch of elementary school kids. And they were hugging me and all that kind of stuff. So this is the result of
Result of that. Yes. Yeah.
jumping into a spot where there are germs that my body is not used to. And so,
Uh,
like, I have grandkids, so it used to not affect me too much. Uh, but the problem is my grandkids moved to Boston in July, so they're not here every day anymore. So it's
mhm,
just my wife and I, and I don't spend a whole bunch of time being around germs, but I
mhm.
got it this time. So forgive me for the voice, but you can still hear me. You can still
Yeah.
understand me.
I
We're
hear
going
you.
to make this working. So I like every other guest, Lancelot, I want you to tell your story. Story can start at your mama's womb or anywhere you want in the middle. I know you have an amazing story, so I can't wait to hear it, and then we'll chop it up after that. But again, thank you for being on and taking the time out of your day to be part of our podcast.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Well, first of all, thank you for being on your podcast. I'm very excited to speak and be a part of your crew of people and your audience. Always looking to um, inspire audiences from all over the world. So, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. My story starts. I will start it in high school. I was a athlete. I was a Division One athlete. I was being recruited by several schools after having a great senior year. All city. I'm from New York City, uh, a city of like 8-9 million people. So when you make all city, that's a big thing.
It's a big deal, yeah.
So on my way up to one of the schools that recruited me, I wind up getting into a plane crash.
Mm.
Yeah, I wind up surviving a deadly plane crash. One person out of 11. It was a private airlines. So one person died and 11 of us survived. And I wind up getting back on a plane about 3 weeks after I got out the hospital because I knew that if I didn't, I would have a phobia. And that invincibility that you need as a football player would no longer be there. So I knew enough at 17 years old that I needed to get back on that plane. Shortly after the plane crash in February, I got into a train accident. On my way back from New York City, F train had
Mm.
derailed. Then from there, I got into a car accident on my graduation day in high school. I left my graduation hat home. I turned around with my girlfriend rushing. I didn't look, got into a head-on collision on graduation day. That
Oh
was
my.
in May. And then in July, with family and friends at a beach, I almost drowned and watched a friend of mine's drown right in front of me. And that
Wow.
to this day is one of the most horrific experiences that I've ever had to go through.
Yeah.
And I still experience some of the residual effects from that whenever I get in water that I can't see in front of me. I start to panic. And so All of that happened within 6 months of each other. And I can remember distinctly my mother coming down. They had called her, and I can only imagine what that ride must have been like, going down to the beach after somebody called you. Her son had just been in a plane crash, train accident, car crash. And she saw, and she broke down to tears and said, "Oh my God, what did I do so wrong for all this bad karma to come back on my son?" And at 17 years old, I said, "What did you do wrong? What did you do right? I'm still here. I'm still standing. I must be a gift from God." And from that point on, there was a shift in how I saw myself. I saw myself as a gift, because why else would I be able to survive that many situations within a 6-month period of time? God must have been trying to tell me something. And just that perspective in my mindset, all of a sudden, about 3 weeks later, I had a dream, and I can remember it vividly. God came to me and saying, "You've been a chosen one, and I want you to be a beacon of positive light and energy to people around the world." Now, at 17 years old, you don't really know what that means, but I remember it. And in remembering it, it changed how I moved in life. So my entire life, I have always understood what my purpose was. So I went on to college. I played, did very well. I wind up trying out for the New England Patriots. I didn't make it. Then I went to Europe, played a year in Europe, did very well, came back, tried out for the New York Jets, didn't make it. It was time for me to then move on. But I knew and always knew what my purpose was, to be a beacon of positive light and energy to people around the world. So then I started asking myself, what is the next step? But when you feel as though you know your purpose, you leave yourself open for other opportunities. A friend of mine came and said, "How would you like to start this sporting apparel business?" I then thought, well, maybe this is the next road that God wants me to take, because I know what my purpose is. So I started a sporting apparel business, and we were pretty successful. We had contracts with Princeton University. And what I did, I used my popularity as an athlete to get in the doors, because a lot of the coaches knew my name, knew who I was, knew my story. And I was able to get into a lot of those doors based off of who I was. And then I presented what I did, and we had contracts with Princeton University, Ramapo College, Fordham University, Wagner, Holy Cross High School. We were doing pretty well. But after a while, I realized this wasn't thrilling me, and I knew there was something else out there for me. Now, this entire time, each time I do something, I call it reinvention. I was using a specific formula. I was using what I wrote and called the 5 keys of reinvention. So I had a format. I had a structure that I was utilizing. So then once I got through and I became a business owner, I then said, this, I don't think is the path. I then turned around, met a person on the street selling T-shirts, because that's one of the other things we did was sell T-shirts, who was a producer and writer. And we got to talking, and he explained to me he was on his way to California. And he asked me, if you're interested, maybe let's talk about it. Again, understanding that I have a purpose in life, to be a beacon of positive light and energy to people around the world, knowing that the business wasn't feeling like this was what I was supposed to be doing. I was open to new suggestions. I was open to try something new, experiencing something different. Make a long story short, I decided to go on this tour with this guy and help him get this cast of I think it was 7 to California twice to compete in this national competition in LA in theater. Wind up doing that. It was very successful. Then I came back and took a course on Broadway on how to be a producer, successful producer. That's when I started learning about how to produce, how to executive produce theater, and why theater is so expensive. We talked about all the unions. There's 16 different unions. I learned all of that. Then in the midst of being a producer, I started liking and enjoying acting. So then I got involved with acting. I started studying with teachers. I went to the very famous Frank Severo workshop. at the same time using the same formula that I always use, those 5 keys to reinvention. So I started learning how to act. I started studying. And the 5 keys is, I'll tell you what the 5 keys are. Key number 1 is all you need to get everything that you want in your life. So it's very important to understand that nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. But you have everything that you need right inside of you. Greatness is locked inside of you. We were all given greatness, but it's up to us to realign ourselves with the greatness that's locked inside of us. Number 2, you have to surround yourself with guides and people who have done what you've done. Mentors. Go out and find the guides. Go out and find the mentors. You get in groups like the CLA, get in groups like the New York City experience, New York City Mastermind experience. Be around people that are doing what you're doing. That's very important. Number 3, you have to educate yourself fully in whatever it is that you're trying to do. You cannot educate yourself enough. Educate, and there's no excuses because we have chat GPT, we have the internet, we have YouTube, we have schools. There's no reason for you not to be educated fully on whatever it is that you're trying to do. Number 4, you have to be relentless in your pursuit of whatever it is that you're trying to do. You have to be consistent. You have to stay focused. There's a thing called 10,000 hours. Are you willing to put at least 10,000 hours in to master whatever it is that you're trying to do? Because it's not about making money all the time. It's about being the best that you could possibly be. And for me, that's what it's about. So then I can turn around and help others to be the best that they can be. And number 5, and this is one of the most important rules, is you have to believe that you can achieve. And when you believe that you can achieve, then you are certain that you're going to be able to achieve this. And when you're certain, you're going to do whatever it takes and however long it takes to achieve it. The only time you fail is when you give up. I'll say that again. The only time you fail is when you give up. So as an actor, I've been in this game at least 3.5, 4 decades. And I am now starting to get the traction that I've always wanted. I'm not even going to say always deserve. I've always wanted. I have a film coming out right now. I have the second lead in called The Veteran, which I'm very proud of the work that I did for this movie. This is like 3 decades later, but it's the consistency and the relentlessness. And so what that means is you have to love what you do, and you have to do what you love, and then you have to do it consistently. Small intentional acts create massive internal growth. Remember that. It's the small things that you do consistently, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. Those are the things that made massive changes. You don't go for the big things. You do the small things consistently, and you grow 1% better each and every day. And by the time the end of the year is over, you have become 38% better than you were the year before. And you do that within 3 years, you have mastered whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's about mastery. It's about being the best that you could possibly be, so then you can turn around and help others. That's at least how I'm moving. So once I got into acting, I then started exotic dancing. Now, a lot of people don't know I was one of the top exotic dancers in New York City. Traveled all over the world. I've been to Italy, Austria, Canada, Puerto Rico, St. John's, St. Thomas, St. Croix, traveled all over the world. And in the midst of when I was at the height of, because they used to call me Sir Lancelot, I met somebody who said, "You have talent. You have real talent." Now, I had already been feeling as though this exotic dance thing wasn't in alignment of my purpose. And I was feeling I needed to move on. And I left myself open because God has always led me to my next thing. And a person came up to me and said, "You have real talent. If you're interested," a guy by the name of Frank West, "if you're interested, I'll take you to a school that you can learn how to dance." I said, "Absolutely." Now, growing up, dance and football didn't mix. Back then, dance and athletics didn't mix. Dance And theater was for the nerds, so to speak. The cool guys play sports, so I believed. It wasn't until after I was an adult and I didn't care what people thought and I knew what my purpose was that I went into dance. Now, I went to this school called Bernice Johnson, which winds up being a very famous dance school. They put out incredible artists. Girl who was in my class was Ashanti, who's a very famous R&B. She has a star on that walk or whatever that thing is in LA. She was in my class. She was in my class. Michael Peters came out of that school. Michael Peters was Michael Jackson's choreographer and director. You had people like Ben Vereen that came out of there, and a host of other actors and dancers and Alvin Ailey that came out of this school. I had no idea. I go down, I audition. They offer me a full non-traditional scholarship. That means I will take 20 classes a week for free. For free. Ooh. They said the only caveat is you would have to take class with kids as young as 8 years old, teenagers. I said, absolutely. So I started dancing. And that transition was probably one of the hardest transitions that I've ever had to go through because I literally had to start completely over from scratch. Nobody knew what I had did in the past. Nobody knew that I had played professional football. Nobody knew that I had my own business. I was coming as a new jack. And then I was coming into a hostile situation because the parents did not want me there. The administration didn't want me there. The one person that gave 4 of us scholarships was a guy by the name of Tony Marlborough, who felt that these men deserved this scholarship. Now, everybody else was paying for school. We were taking class for free. So every day I would come in, you could feel the tension. I would say good morning and people, and you could see people were not happy that we were there. Now I understand now because I get it. These are kids that paid for school, and all of a sudden you got these 4 males that come in, and all of a sudden they just open the entire school to them. So it was very difficult. And I tell you a story. A little girl, 8 years old, I couldn't get a step. About 2 weeks, I was working on pullbacks and tap. And after a while, she said, "You can't get the steps, stupid." Now, this is a little girl, 8 years old. Now, a 300-pound lineman would never say that to me out of respect. I got this little girl who's, what, 70 pounds soaking wet, calling me stupid. But what it did 2 things for me. It taught me complete humility, but it also lit a fire in me. A fire that has never gone out since. And what that fire was I was determined to be better than anybody that came out of that school in regards to being a tap dancer, and definitely better than this girl. And it became an obsession for me. Tap dance became an obsession. And as a result of that obsession, every day, all day, that's all I thought about was tap dance. It drove my family crazy. It drove my then girlfriend, now wife, crazy. She used to say things like, "Please, why don't you act like an adult?" She had no idea of what the passion was of trying to be a tap dancer as an adult. It became not just a passion, but it became a challenge. I am going to be the best that came out of this school. And as a result of that little girl, and that experience, I now have an entire technique that I create called the T3 technique, which I had the opportunity to teach at a university last year, at Delphi University, which was a bucket list for me. People learning my technique. Fast forward, during the pandemic, I realized a few things. One is that I have more time behind me than I have in front of me. Number 2 is I learned that you can be locked down and locked up, but they can't lock your mind up. They can't lock your passion up. And at that point, I decided during the pandemic, because I had time, that I was going to write a book, that I was going to put my reel together and send it out, that I was going to start a talk show. I was going to do 100,000 push-ups. And all of that I accomplished. Why? Because I learned that it's not a thing that you can't do if you become relentless, focused, and be consistent. See, In the pandemic, we had nothing but time. Now, a lot of people wasted their time watching TV. I didn't watch TV. I was busy writing a book. When I wasn't writing a book, I was doing push-ups. I used to do 500 push-ups every day from, was it May 31st of, I think it was 20 to May 31st of 21. I got hurt. Shoulders, I hurt my shoulders. I had to take off. So it was 100,000. I wind up doing 75,000 push-ups. 75,000 push-ups. I did dips. I did curls. I did squats. All of that within a year. That was another goal. Then I put my my acting reel together, sent it out. And from 2023 to now, I've been in 4 different movies, 2 leads, as a result of the pandemic. Because the pandemic taught me we have more time in back of us than we have in front of us, which made everything urgent, which taught me that it's not a thing that you can't do if you put your mind to it. If you put your mind to it, follow those same 5 keys that you've been following, and strengthen the mindset each and every day, grow 1% each and every day, you can accomplish anything you want. So I stand here today as an author, #1 best-selling author. I stand here today with a successful talk show. I stand here today with a program I created for the last 6 months called From Stuck to Unstoppable, The Power of Reinvention. I stand here today as a public speaker, inspirational speaker, all because I first and foremost believed in myself, but I utilized those 5 keys. And that, in a nutshell, is who I am.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so many things I want to unpack as a result of it. Kind of where I want to start is when I think about your identity and the person you've become and the different identity shifts that you've had. Like one of them is you get in these accidents. What was your identity like before the accidents and then right after them?
Confident. I was confident because I was an athlete before the accident. After the accident, I became driven. I understood that there was a God out there. I understood that God had chosen me, and I understood that I had a purpose in life, and that shifted everything for me. I was confident before I got into the accident. Once I got into that year, I got into all those what I call the tragic 4. I realized that I had been chosen. I had been chosen to, and I had a purpose. And once I had a purpose, it changed my whole perception on life.
When you think about that purpose and knowing that you are going to inspire people for the rest of your life, what kind of responsibility did you then feel like you had in everything that you did? Like wait, I can't do this or this or this because this is what I got to do. Maybe talk to me a little bit about some of the decisions you made as a result of knowing your purpose.
Well, first of all, because I knew that I had a purpose in life, a lot of my friends were drinking and doing drugs. Recreation. They were smoking weed. I just couldn't do that. I had a couple guys that started selling weed, and it made sense to me. The way they presented it, it made sense. But in the back of my mind, I said, that's not in conjunction with my purpose. I can't do that. Another thing is how I treat people. I began to treat people with love. I began to bring love to the room. Any and everywhere I go, I can get along with everybody because I thought I had, and knew, not thought, I knew I had God behind me. I knew I had that purpose behind me. So I was able to go up in Maine when there was only, 1% Black? You talking about there was like, I think 15 people out of 10,000 up there, and it never affected me. And I never changed my personality. In fact, I had to, after a while, shaved down my personality a little bit because it was people just didn't understand a kid from New York City with this type of swag, I guess I'd say. But it my approach was always to embrace whoever you were for who you were. You know what I mean? Love, to always try to affect, even back then, I used to go talk to kids in school, even back in college, I would do that because I knew my purpose was to affect people in a positive way.
One of the things that I think of all the time is like when I met you, is like you were warm, you came up to me, you spoke, and I see so many people who try to do well in business or entrepreneurship, but they just go into rooms and they don't light up the room. They just are like a fly on the wall, like they're trying to understand. And I don't know how. I mean, maybe for you, because you're saying, wait, my purpose is to infuse into other people, or help them find their greatness. You can't do that by being a fly on the wall. How
Yes.
do you think that personality of speaking first and being that person that people go, oh, I want to be attracted to, has helped you move through all these things that you're able to do now?
Well, first and foremost, I worked on it, and I worked on it this morning. There's a set of things that I say on a daily basis because I believe your net worth is based off your network. So I believe it's about connection and it's about connecting with people in a real way. So I work on it every single day. And there's certain things I say to myself every morning. I have a transformational blueprint of things that I do consistently. And one of them is the power of connection. So I wake up and I say things like, when you go into a room, believe that everybody's there for good intention. That's very important. To understand that whatever room you're in, because you're in that room, people are there for good intentions. Number two, give energy into the interaction. Don't wait for them. You give energy into that interaction. Number three, go into each interaction as if you don't know anything and you're very curious about everything. Number four, treat them like royalty. Be happy, be grateful that you're meeting them. Number five, the platinum rule is treat everybody how they want to be treated, how they would want to be treated. Number six, listen. That's a very important skill. Listen to what they're saying because people are so busy trying to say what they want to say. They're not listening intently to what the other person is saying. Listen, say their name, congratulate them, celebrate their wins. These are all things that I say to myself each and every day. It's the 80-20 rule. Let them talk 80% about themselves, and maybe you talk 20% about you. Sometimes it's 90-10. Allow them to express who they are so that you can connect with them because people might not know remember what you do, but they will remember how you make them feel. That's very important. Another thing I always say is bring empathy into the room. Always walk with empathy. Another one I always say is you have to, before you ask for anything, you always give in return. Give. How can I help you? Let me introduce you to this person. How can I be of service to you? This is very important when you're connecting in a real way. I'm not talking about networking. I'm talking about connecting because the one thing I've learned with being around Sifu and Jose and the rest of the New York City experience is that when you connect with somebody in a real way, they're going to want to work with you because they know you. They can feel you as opposed to networking and here's my card. No. Let's take the time out to connect with one another. And that's why I know, and this is one of the things I speak about. When I walk into a room, I attract people. I know this. Why do I know this? Because I've worked on it consistently each and every day.
That is so, I mean, that you put this into a skill. You obviously know it because you say it every day, but you live it because you live it. One of the things that happens so often, you go to events and you can tell the people who have not practiced this, right? Because they run up to you, they jump into your space, they start telling you, and you just go, wait a minute,
Mhm.
and then you have somebody who, like yourself, who works on it and says, a minute. Yeah, I gotta show you how much I care before we can ever get into all the stuff that you do. Nobody cares what you do,
Right.
and so maybe just talk a little bit about, because you mentioned the word networking, and we've all been to networking events. And since you have your keys here, maybe the difference between what is it you're trying to achieve when you go to an event. I think people get that backwards all the time. They think my number one thing is to let everybody know who I am and they'll all do business with me.
Right.
And that's not why you're really going. That's not why you should be going there.
Right.
But
Right.
maybe talk about that a little bit, because I know you're an expert at
I learned this. Again, it's about being around visionaries, collaborators, and people who are doing what you want to do. The great Emilio Ramon says that when you're around successful people, your productivity goes up 15% just being around them. But at firstly, when you're around negative people, your productivity goes down 30%. So it goes down double. So being around positive people is very important. But when you're around positive people, it's not about, you want to connect. See, people are so because we're in such a microwave society now, everybody is about getting the money right away. And if they don't connect and they don't see money in the immediate horizon, they're on to the next person. No, you establish real relationships, real connections, and then people will want to work with you because they know you as an individual. It's not about, I learned that. I learned that. It's not something that I came to the table with. I learned that and I experienced being around that the first event, because I'm new to this actually. The first
it.
event I went to was last August. It was called Born to Risk, and I had never been around this before, and I was so blown away at everybody's embracing of everybody's else. Everybody never talked about what they can get out of you. Everybody was just connecting. For the
Yeah.
first time in my life, I walked away knowing 15 different people's names. That's never happened. I'm in a lot of rooms as an actor and as an artist. I don't remember anybody's name. You just say, hey, how you doing? And you're very superficial, and then you move on. For the first time, we connected. I was having conversations with people that I don't even have conversations with my family. And it was breathtaking. It was so refreshing. And then I learned that this is how you're supposed to communicate and get around other people that do the exact same thing. And this is why it's very important to get into rooms like that. It was very important to get into the New York City mastermind experience just because of that. Because you're connecting with other people that are looking to change the world. And that to me is exhilarating. And it's not about networking, it's about connecting.
Yeah, that is so. I mean, when you feel that experience, you've been in that experience. And for
Yes.
those who haven't and that are struggling, I encourage you to find ways to get into rooms, watch, look, and listen. I want to go into the five things that you were talking about. Like you said, you are all that you need, and God has given you everything you need to be successful. And then when I think about belief, you tie that in on your fifth one and saying you got to believe you can do it. How do you help people realize you have everything you need, and then help them move into that belief that they can do everything? Because that's such a key pivotal part of making things work.
It's about mindset,
Okay.
first and foremost. And this is where the transformational blueprint comes in. There's two things I constructed and teach in terms of going from stuck to unstoppable. The first thing is the transformational blueprint. Then you get into the 5 keys to reinvention. The transformational blueprint is the things that you do on a consistent basis to build that mindset up, to understand that everything that you need is locked inside of you. Because some of us don't understand it or believe that. Why? Because we've been taught negative things since we've been, they've told you that you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not handsome enough. You're not black enough, or you're not light enough. These are all things that we take in because mind is the most incredible computer there is. But what it does is it takes in information, gigabytes of information every day. It doesn't say whether it's right or wrong. It just brings it in. And then it utilizes it later on. It sees something that's familiar, and then it utilizes. So if you have negativity coming at you all the time, and then you try to do something positive, the brain is going to react to the negative. So in other words, a good example is people that the New Year's resolutions. Why doesn't that work? Well, first of all, inspiration dies.
Yeah.
Systems work all the time. Systems and structures work. Inspiration, motivation dies. So what does that mean? That means every January, you're inspired to do great things. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym. And you really believe that. The only problem is in your mindset, your subconscious, which controls your conscious, and your conscious controls your actions. You have not changed that computer chip, which is acceptable for you to quit, which is acceptable for you not to believe that you can do it. So no matter if you get inspired, for that inspiration wears off. Systems don't. And what I mean by that is if you can get up and you can start doing affirmations, if you can start writing your gratitude journal, if you can take back your mornings, that is the beginnings of reconstructing that mindset. For an example, I get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning without an alarm clock. So I say to you, if you're looking to build and reconstruct the mindset, the first thing I want you to do is make yourself uncomfortable. And how you do that is to get up. I'm asking you to get up an hour earlier. That's it, an hour early. If you get up at 6, get up at 5. That's the first thing in starting to take back the mental. That's the first thing in terms of being able to start to reconstruct the mindset, because you want to be able to control your mind. You don't want your mind to control you. So the first thing, this is called my transformational blueprint. Get up in the morning an hour earlier. That's the first. Second thing, once you swing your feet on the ground, the first thing you do is make your bed. And people say, why? Making your bed represents conquering the world. They have a whole book on just making your bed, because that represents system, that represents organization, that represents getting up in the morning and telling yourself that I am ready, structured for the day. That's very important. And I do it every morning. I make up, my wife said, you better start saying you make up your side of the bed. So I make up my side of the bed. I don't make up the full because she's still in the bed. Number 3, I, under no circumstance, and this is the hardest one, do not open up your phone, scroll, look at notifications, and pollute that brain with all that negative information. That is the hardest thing. It happened to me this morning. I grabbed my phone because I take my phone downstairs to do the number five that I'll tell you. But in doing that, I looked at it. I saw a notification. I looked at it and I was like, God, dog it. I'm a work in progress, because I opened it up and then I had to close it because I know I'm not supposed to do this, but yet I did it anyway. Distractions are the devil. They're the things that take you away from what you're really supposed to be doing. It's distractions. Those reality shows are distractions. That phone is a distraction. The warrior against distraction is focus. So you must focus on not opening up that phone. That has to be a focus. It just happened to me this morning. So that's number 3. Number 4, I go downstairs and I pour a tall glass of water and I drink it. And what that represents is pressing the reset button. Pressing the reset button on the new 2.0 you. You're creating the new you. That water represents another day of getting 1% better than I was the day before. I drink that glass of water, that cold water, and I feel it going down into my system. And yes, this is another day that I've been given to be better than I was the day before. That is a gift from God, because there's people that didn't get up today. There's people that can't get up today because they're crippled or they're paralyzed. You're getting up today and you're getting another shot to be just a little bit better. Because like I said earlier, the small intentional things make massive internal shifts. I'm going to say that again. It's the small intentional things that you do consistently that make a massive internal shift. You don't try to conquer Rome in one day. You do it consistently. Once you do that, you press the reset button, you go upstairs, you go downstairs. I go downstairs because I live in a house, and I relax my body from head to toe. And I get my mind ready because now I'm about to open up that phone when I say it's time. And I go directly to YouTube and I put on Stoicism for 30 to 40 minutes. And Stoicism is about mastering the mind. Stoicism is about positivity. Stoicism is about being the best that you could possibly be. And I put that on each and every single day. That's the first thing I allow into my mind is that. And I'm telling you, when I walk into a room, I'm a magnet. I know this. This is not cocky. I know what I am. Why do I know what I am? Because I've worked on it. I feel me. I know what I possess now. I'm different than I was 2 weeks ago because I've put that work in consistently. So once you listen to 30 to 40 minutes of whatever it is, it could be church hymns, long as it's positive and it's moving you forward, you then finish and then you do your gratitude journal. Now this is my new book. This is a gratitude journal right here. I write in it every morning. All right, this is my new one. I have a host. Where's my other one? I have a host in that write in. Here's another one right here. All right, I finished this one. But every morning, I write into a gratitude journal. What am I grateful for? Now, I encourage people to do at least 3 things that you're grateful for. I do a whole page. It's a little book's about 10 things. And a lot of this stuff is similar each and every day. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for having my parents who you had an opportunity to meet my parents. I am so grateful that they were able to experience that New York City experience with me. That a lot of people I know don't have that. I have both my parents with me. I write down each day, I'm grateful for their health. Thank you, Lord, for giving me this opportunity to have another day to experience my parents with me. I write that down every day. After the gratitude, then I do affirmations. All right, this is why you got to get up at least an hour early because this is a process. And once I do the affirmations, I finish the affirmations, then I'm a firm believer that you can't separate the physical from the mental and the spiritual. They're all connected. You can't grow in one way and not grow in the other. So I do 100 squats and 100 dips. And there go. And the last thing I do is I take a cold shower, which is the hardest thing for me. That cold water just does something. But when you make yourself uncomfortable each and every day, you start to trust in yourself. You start to believe in yourself. You start to get confidence. Because if I can get up in the morning and take that cold shower and make myself uncomfortable, I can do anything. Why? Because it's those small things. Yeah. And that is what I do.
Thank you for sharing that because some people just say, I have a morning routine. You actually said, wait a minute. This is what I do. And one of the things that I think is so cool about it is one, you didn't say that I go to bed at 1 o'clock after scrolling through everything and get up an hour early or watching TV every night, right? You got to get your rest. You're not saying don't get your rest, but that habit you have at nighttime might be preventing you from doing the things that you do in the morning. Exactly. The other thing that's so cool about it is there's habits. Right. And we're going to have habits no matter what, whether they're good habits or bad habits. And you've chosen to make good habits because some people's morning routine is get up, have the alarm that wakes you up, go down and get the cup of coffee, yell at the dog, get on the phone, scroll. those are habits as well. And you form them not even knowing that you formed them and think
Exactly.
that's a good routine. So maybe talk just just a few seconds about what made you decide that you were going to make sure you did these things because it was going to change your life and got rid of maybe some of those bad habits.
Interestingly enough, one of the other things I believe in is constantly tweaking, and I believe in watching others who are successful and
Hmm.
then taking from them. If I see you've done something and it's working for you, then I will do the same thing. Now it's about a year since I've been getting up early. Yeah, a little over a year. That was directly a result of a director that I have that directed this film, this new film that I'm in. Now he's considered probably the most sought after, the best independent filmmaker of our time. Now he's been saying it for years. Everybody thought he was cocky, you know what I mean? And he continues to say it, but he has done the work. He has done the work. He has done, I think, 9 films in 9 years. That's unheard of. And the last film we did, I just got an email, are on 11 different platforms, which also is unheard of. 11. He did that all on his own. So I would get messages from him, motivational messages, a year ago, because this is right before he hired me to play the lead. And I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'd wake up. Yo, what time are you getting up? He said, oh, I get up 3, 4 o'clock every morning. I send out 1,000 emails and then I go work out. I said, what? Say no more. What time do you get up? He said 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I've already seen the accomplishments that he was able to do. Now, I don't send out 1,000 emails, but I started getting up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I made that decision. I made that choice. And now it's not even hard for me. I'm up at 2 o'clock and I have to make myself go back to sleep until 3:30, 4 o'clock, because right around 9 to 10 o'clock, I start falling asleep. My wife, it drives her crazy because you're going to get your sleep somewhere. I'll be nodding out, but I do it simply because I saw somebody else who was successful, and I'm not player hating. I am congratulating, and I am going to take what you do, and I'm going to take from you if I see something that you do, and I'll take from Denzel Washington. I'll take from anybody that is successful, because that is moving me forward.
Wow.
That's why I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's how I did it. I saw somebody else doing it.
Yeah. And success leaves clues. I mean, that is the truth. And if you look for those clues and find those clues, I want to go back to your 5 keys of reinvention. And, I think it was the third one was education. And I see so many people that become, full-time forever students, but they stop there, right? Like they keep adding one more class, but without that fourth thing is actually doing what you're being educated about. Because so many people like, I got to do another class, I got to learn this, I got to do this, and I applaud getting the education and being a relentless student, but at the same time, you got to add that, okay, I learned this, now I got to go do the work. What for you, because I know you're always learning, reading, growing, looking at what other people do, what helps you then turn that into action?
Simply purpose.
All
As
right.
simple as purpose. The purpose is what's driven me since I was 17 years old. I've always known I can't tell you the power behind understanding what your purpose is. That's powerful. And to get a direct link from the man upstairs, doesn't matter who you believe in, there's a higher power up there. And that higher power spoke to me and told me, frankly, you are to be a beacon of positive light and energy for people around the world. That was my purpose. That's what drives me. So when I educate myself, it is fully with the intention to take whatever it is that I learn, cultivate it, and then disseminate it to others. as a dancer, I have learned how to become a professional dancer, professional choreographer, to show others that it's possible. You might not need and want to be a dancer, but this is how I did it. And you can do whatever it is that you want to do. I have a group called Moms in the Hood. I want you to look them up when you get a chance. They're women in their 40s and 50s who are now in their 60s and 70s that became world famous and changed the landscape of hip hop dance, learning how to hip hop dance in their 40s and 50s. At a time, 26, 27 years ago, when hip hop was for the young urban kids. It had just been becoming mainstream, but this was, hip hop was urban, it was young, it wasn't for upward mobile white people. These are white Jewish ladies who were doctors, lawyers, therapists who I met, saw that they had a passion about them because they knew what it took to be successful. They were doctors and lawyers and therapists. So they took their keys of how to be successful, and they brought that to class. So I noticed this and I said, wow, you guys have more dedication than a lot of these young dancers I deal with. And then I started pouring into them and I started implementing my 5 keys into them. And those 5 keys wind up developing a phenomenon group called Moms in the Hood. It's MOMZNDAHOOD, the first group of its kind that changed the landscape of hip hop dance. Because now, as a direct result of that group, in all the arenas around the country, you have older people that perform and dance in those arenas and get paid for it. That is a direct result of Moms in the Hood. I took Moms in the Hood, along with a younger group I had, to Madison Square Garden and performed at a Knicks City game. The place went crazy. The lady that ran Madison Square Garden asked, who put this together? They sent it to me. She offered me a job at the Knicks City Dancers. I choreographed it for the Knicks City Dancers for a year. Then the next year, they created their own group. And they called me up, and I had 2 of my girls go down and audition. After it was over, they called us. They said, we want them. Then we started realizing, I said, this is too similar to what we do. So we contacted a lawyer. And we said, I mean, what can we do about this? And he said, you can't do anything about it because you can't coin older people dancing. But if they take your name, you can then do something about that. Madison Square Garden was the first arena that had they were called the Timeless Torches. That's a direct result of Moms in the Hood. Wow. Now, all over the country, there are older people getting paid to dance and taken seriously. And that's a direct result. But none of them did what we did. These ladies learned how to do head spins, back spins, knee spins. They were doing flips. If you look them up, they bad. Nobody has been able to duplicate Moms in the Hood. And that is a direct result of taking the 5 keys of reinvention and applying them to somebody else.
Oh my gosh, man! So many gems. If you're watching this, now it'll be recording. If you're watching it live, if you've been writing it down, make sure you stop and pause, write down the things and the ideas that he's been, whether it's the blueprint or whether it's the 5 keys, and look at it for yourself. How would I do this? How do I create more belief in what I do? He didn't get to talk about, he talked about a morning routine, but then, he has things that he does during the day that maybe we'll get into the next time that we talk. But it starts with your day by not picking up that phone, by making your bed, by taking that tall glass of water. I promise you that cold shower. Now, it's hard because that one is the one you go, whoa, what just happened right now? Y'all start out with a warm one and turn it cold, right? I mean,
that still bothers me. that's still, but when I finish it, I feel
Yeah.
so exhilarated. But as many days, I'm gonna be honest with you, that I
Good.
skip that, and that's not good. That's not because cold water. I mean, I have a thing with cold. I went to University of Maine, and I had some really awful experiences with cold. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's traumatic for me to get there, and they're like, it's truly traumatic. You
Yeah. If you look up cold plunges, they have machines to do it. It is so good for your nervous
yeah,
system and
oh,
your body.
absolutely. It
It
shocks
is so
me.
wonderful.
Yes,
Right. Lancelot, thank you for being on today. We went through so many cool things. Is there something that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that you talk about, and then how do folks get a hold of you? Because this is such good stuff.
all right. I didn't talk about a program that I put together, which encapsulates all of the above, and it's called
Okay.
From Stuck to Unstoppable. And I am looking for people who notice more out there for them, but they just don't know how to get to it. They understand and they've had conversations and they have that voice inside of them that's saying there's more for you out there. And this could be doctors, lawyers, this could be anybody who's doing something, but know there's something more for you out there. I have a program that I have spent 6 months putting together that I would love to share. And this is what I've been gifted to share with the world. You know, if you need somebody, an inspirational speaker, contact me. I have right now you can contact me on Facebook at Lancelot Theobald, Instagram at Absolute Fusion Fitness. I have a website that's being constructed right now by Michael Stevenson. You met him, he hung out with us. He's a branding guy. He's doing my website as we speak. So that'll be out momentarily. Yes.
Oh my gosh, so cool. Well, again, thank you for being on. If this is your first podcast and you've said, wow, there's some really good stuff, I learned a whole lot, hit the notification button, the subscribe button. I promise you, we just have it continue to have more and more folks that can feed into your life, that give those clues. When I say successfully clues, well, you got to see the clues, right? So we
Right.
have to have the successful people that come on and give you blueprints and give you keys. And then, like just like Lancelot said, you try those, see if it works out with your personality, with your life. What you don't want to do is follow folks that have really bad habits
Right.
that are not going to where you want to go. That might be the one hit wonders of the world that you kind of look up to, or because they were in a movie playing pretend, you follow that character
Right.
instead the
Right.
character of the man that's behind it. I can't wait for your movie to come back because now we know the character of the man behind the character you're
Yes.
playing. And it
Yes.
just makes that more special. Like I love Denzel more than I love some of these other actors
No, I
that,
love Denzel.
because I know who he is off stage
Yes.
compared to
Yes.
who he is on stage. And we sometimes we expect those folks to be perfect, and they're human beings and
Right.
they
Like
have flaws
everybody
just
else.
like
That's right.
everybody else. But
That's
look
right.
at the clues, the things that they talk about. Alexa, do you have one last closing thought before we end today? But this has been such an amazing show we put together.
My closing thought would be to just extend my complete gratitude and thank you for giving me the platform to share my story, to possibly make a difference in one person's life that has listened here. If I can say one thing, and I say it to whoever's listening out there, you have greatness locked inside of you. Whether you
Mhm.
believe it or not, you have greatness locked inside of you. We've been all gifted that. It's about you realigning yourself with that greatness by utilizing tools, processes, and systems. I have the system that has worked for me, and it can work for you as well. All you got to do is believe.
You again. And for those listening, I just want to remind you that you are God's greatest gift. And He loves you
Absolutely.
if you allow Him to. And to add on to that, for those of you who are not taking the action, is you are the answer. I mean, I want you to hear this. You are the answer to somebody else's prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go out and take the action on what God has put you on this planet to do, you will answer that prayer for somebody who is seeking you out. So you guys all have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day, and we will look forward to talking to you on the next one. Talk to you soon.